The story you're about to hear isn't soft, it isn't polite, and it definitely isn't comfortable. This is one of those stories the palace hoped would stay buried forever. Because once you really listen, once you connect the dots, you realize this was never just about Prince Andrew. It was always bigger. And now it's shaking everything Meghan Markle thought she escaped. Prince Andrew didn't fall quietly. He didn't fade away. His collapse was violent, public, humiliating. His association with Jeffrey Epstein ripped through the monarchy like a bomb. One day, he was a prince with status, access, and privilege. The next, his titles were stripped, doors slammed shut, and his future erased in full view of the world. No mercy, no protection, no silence. But here's where things start to feel wrong. Because if Andrew was destroyed for being part of Epstein's orbit, why was there absolute silence surrounding Meghan Markle's alleged proximity to the very same world, same era, same elite circles, same private environments? Yet somehow, only one person was sacrificed. That silence is not peace. Silence is strategy. Silence is fear. And the more you look at it, the more unsettling it becomes. Long before Meghan was introduced as an outsider marrying into royalty, long before the fairy tale headlines, sources claim she already knew Prince Andrew, not casually, not from a single event, but personally, privately. According to those familiar with the situation, Andrew himself reportedly told people that he had known Meghan well before she ever became a duchess, and that their connection was far closer than anyone was ever told. If that's true, then the entire narrative collapses, because that means Meghan didn't stumble into royal life. She didn't wander in unaware. She didn't marry into power by chance. She was already connected to it, and that changes everything. It raises questions no one has ever answered. How did they meet? How deep did that connection go? Why was it never acknowledged, especially when Andrew's scandal erupted? If Andrew was condemned for his associations, why wasn't Meghan even questioned? You don't hide things that don't matter. And then there's the yacht. A single photograph. A single moment frozen in time. Meghan Markle, in 2014, photographed on a private yacht. Not a public cruise, not a charity event, but an environment deeply associated with Epstein's inner world. Karina Shuliak, Epstein's last known girlfriend, publicly stated that the only time she traveled on private planes or yachts was with him. Those spaces weren't leisure. They were controlled environments, exclusive, insulated, powerful. So when Meghan appears in that same elite setting during that same period within the same social orbit, it stops looking like coincidence. It starts looking like proximity, and proximity matters, especially when one man's life is destroyed for being near that world and another person walks away untouched. The yacht isn't just a photograph, it's a doorway into a chapter of Meghan's life that was never explained, never clarified, and never addressed. And that silence is exactly where the real story lives. Because when Andrew's scandal exploded, the woman who stood at the center of it all was Virginia Roberts. She wasn't a commentator. She wasn't chasing headlines. She was the accuser whose testimony brought Andrew's world crashing down. And according to claims, Virginia didn't just want powerful men questioned. She reportedly wanted Meghan Markle called as a witness. That alone should have stopped the world. Witnesses aren't random. Witnesses are chosen because they may know something, because they were close enough to see, hear, or understand what others couldn't. The claim suggests Meghan wasn't viewed as a stranger to Andrew's private world. She was considered a close past associate. Let that sink in. But when the legal pressure mounted, when the moment came, Meghan's name vanished. No testimony, no public mention, no follow-up. It was as if someone reached into the narrative and erased her completely. History doesn't disappear like that unless someone wants it to. And the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes that Meghan didn't rise into elite power accidentally. Her access was built. When she moved to Toronto to film Suits, she wasn't a global figure. She wasn't royal. She was ambitious, talented, but far from the world's most powerful rooms. That changed when Marcus Anderson entered her life. A senior figure linked to Soho House, an exclusive network known for secrecy, influence, and elite access. According to sources, Anderson didn't just meet Meghan. He introduced her. He positioned her. He opened doors most people never even know exist. Through those connections, Meghan moved quickly. Influential figures, private gatherings, wealthy social circles stretching from Toronto to New York and beyond. This wasn't casual networking. It was strategic elevation. And whether the monarchy knowingly allowed someone with a controversial past into its core, that's not a scandal. That's an institutional failure. And Harry sits at the center of it, caught between loyalty and regret. According to claims, he's already begun to emotionally detach. The realization that his life may have been built on half-truths has reportedly left him hollow. He didn't just walk away from the royal family. He may have walked into something far more isolating. Because betrayal cuts deeper when it's discovered too late. And Meghan, for the first time, is no longer controlling the narrative. Her public public image, once carefully crafted around victimhood, independence, and resilience, is now vulnerable to scrutiny she can't redirect. If Andrew breaks his silence, this story won't be about feelings or perceptions, it will be about timelines. It will be about access. It will be about who knew whom and when. And that's where everything unravels, because timelines don't care about branding. They don't respond to PR statements. They either line up or they expose the truth. If Meghan truly entered royal life already connected to Andrew, already familiar with elite power, already positioned, then the story of the innocent outsider collapses completely. And with it, the moral authority she's relied on. The palace knows this. That's why the silence has held for so long. But silence can't survive resentment forever. And Andrew's resentment is reportedly reaching a breaking point. The belief that he was sacrificed to protect others has turned into a desire not for redemption, but for exposure. If he's going down alone, he's not willing to let the truth stay buried. That's the danger. Because once one piece moves, everything follows. The yacht, the introductions, the private circles, the alleged attempt to align with Andrew before Harry, the blocking by Fergie, the pivot, the marriage, the protection, the silence. It all connects. And when it connects publicly, the story doesn't end with Meghan. It extends to everyone who helped maintain the illusion. That includes the media, that includes palace advisors, that includes anyone who knew and chose silence over accountability. And this is why the next move matters so much. Because if Andrew speaks, even briefly, even indirectly, it opens a door that cannot be closed. Investigations follow, questions multiply, and the narrative shifts from gossip to reckoning. This isn't about revenge anymore, it's about inevitability. Every secret has an expiration date, and this one is overdue. The monarchy is preparing not for scandal, but for exposure. For a moment when the carefully maintained image of modern royalty fractures under the weight of its own contradictions. For a moment when the public asks not what happened, but why they were never told. And when that moment comes, there will be no rewriting it. Because the truth doesn't need volume, it just needs permission to speak. And Andrew is dangerously close to giving it that permission. When that happens, the world won't be watching a royal drama. It will be watching a story unravel that was never meant to survive daylight. A story built on silence, protection, and strategic forgetting. And once it breaks, there will be no going back. Not for Meghan, not for Harry, and not for the monarchy itself. Because some truths don't just change reputations, they change history. By the time her path crossed Harry's, she had already been walking the edges of elite power. And according to claims, Harry wasn't her first royal focus. That distinction belongs to Prince Andrew. Sources allege Meghan had her sights set on Andrew first. Not as a mentor, not as a friend, but as a strategic and romantic target. Older, established, deep inside the palace, connected to influence. But there was a barrier. Sarah Ferguson. Fergie wasn't just Andrew's ex-wife. She was his protector, his gatekeeper, and according to claims, the one who blocked Meghan from getting close enough to pursue anything further. And when that path closed, another one opened. Prince Harry, younger, popular, emotionally vulnerable, and directly in the spotlight. What was never the plan suddenly became the opportunity of a lifetime. And once Meghan had Harry's attention, she didn't let go. The result was the biggest royal leap in modern history. But fairy tales don't survive secrets. After the marriage, whispers began to reach Harry. Old stories, hidden connections, mentions of Meghan's past linked to Andrew long before he ever met her. At first, he rejected it, defended her, cut off anyone who warned him. But according to claims, there came a moment when denial collapsed. When Harry realized the palace hadn't been cruel. They had been warning him, and that realization reportedly shattered him. Sources say he became distant, disgusted, trapped, unable to reconcile the woman he married with the past he never knew. Because if Meghan once targeted Andrew before him, then Harry wasn't chosen for love. He was chosen for access. And while Harry unraveled privately, the palace acted strategically. No headlines, no investigations, no exposure. Silence. Because the palace feared three things. Harry's mental state, a second Epstein-level scandal, and total structural collapse if the public learned they had welcomed someone with such a past into the monarchy. So Meghan was protected, not because she was innocent, but because exposing her could destroy everything. And then there's Andrew, a man stripped of everything, watching someone he believes shared his world walk free. According to claims, Andrew is furious, bitter, done protecting anyone. Sources say he's ready to talk, and he isn't alone. Sarah Ferguson is reportedly aligned with him. Together, they hold knowledge that has been kept quiet for years. And once Andrew speaks, silence won't save anyone. Because when a man with nothing left decides to tell the truth, history doesn't whisper, it explodes. And that's why Meghan is panicking. That's why the palace is frozen. That's why Harry is unraveling. And that's why the monarchy is bracing for impact. Because when the truth finally surfaces, it won't just rewrite Meghan's story. It will rewrite everything. And this is only the beginning. And what makes this moment even more dangerous is the timing. Everything is lining up at once. Andrew has nothing nothing left to lose. The palace has already distanced itself from him completely. His reputation is beyond repair, his title's gone, his future erased. When someone reaches that point, fear disappears, and fear is the only thing that ever keeps secrets locked away. According to claims, Andrew doesn't see himself as the villain anymore. He sees himself as the scapegoat, the one who was offered up to save the institution, while others, people he believes stood close to the same world, were quietly shielded. That resentment doesn't fade, it hardens. And hardened resentment eventually speaks. This is where the silence around Meghan becomes impossible to ignore. Because if there was truly nothing there, no connection, no proximity, no shared environment, then exposure would have been easy. A clean denial, a clear timeline, a firm dismissal. Instead, what the world got was avoidance, deflection, and a media narrative that aggressively redirected attention elsewhere. Silence is never neutral. Silence is chosen. And inside the palace, sources claim the mood has shifted from control to containment. This is no longer about reputation management, this is about damage prevention. Because the truth, if spoken by Andrew, doesn't come out as rumor. It comes out as testimony from someone who lived inside the system. And that's what makes it terrifying. There are reportedly details that have never reached the public. Names, places, private interactions, moments that were never documented because they were never meant to be seen. Things that once spoken cannot be retracted. That's why Charles is said to be steady, not emotional. That's why Catherine has stepped forward as calm, controlled, unshakable. Because panic would confirm vulnerability, and vulnerability invites collapse. But behind closed doors, the concern is real. Because once Andrew speaks, the media won't ask whether Meghan knew Andrew. They'll ask why no one asked sooner, why the palace stayed quiet, why the narrative was protected.